Hey everyone, so just a really quick short episode just to kind of show you some of the stuff that we are currently working on with the car. I'll start right off by saying we haven't done any wiring yet, but we have done some stuff, so I figure we'll just show you that real quick, and then you won't have to wait a year for another video. So we'll come over here first of all. We got the spark plug wires up off the valve covers and suspended away from making direct contact with the engine manifolds, as you can see there. All I did for that is I just took a piece of clothes hanger and I just bent it just right so it runs along the bottom of the cables between the two zip ties. And you can kind of see it on that right there. It just kind of hooks up and then goes in between those and hooks onto that last zip tie. And all that's held on to is it's basically just a washer underneath the bolt holding the valve cover down. So they are obviously not the strongest thing. Like, they're not super crazy sturdy. But they've been like this for a couple weeks now, and they haven't changed at all as far as the position. So we'll see how they hold up once it's running. I'm a little concerned that the vibration might just knock those right down. But for now, it's working pretty good, and so we'll see. And as always, if you guys have suggestions, please feel free to put those in the comments. I'm always looking for good ideas when it comes to this thing. Now we'll take a look at the inside. So we've been working on just the placement for gauges. As you can see, we got the voltmeter, the dummy light, I guess that's the battery light, and the tack in place on this. It's just thin aluminum, and this is kind of a mock-up. I think I want to make it out of something a little bit more substantial, because this is pretty flexible, and there were just a couple cuts on here that I'm not quite satisfied with. That is kind of preventing this from going in all the way. This one's fine. This one goes right in. It sits just fine. And while the panels under here are still removed, I can still reach up and get the nuts that are on the back of the bolts on these screwed on, so that they will be held in place. And I checked the cable length and everything. There's plenty to work with for these as well, so that'll be good. I'm also considering maybe trying to get something a little bit straighter that runs along the back of these for my final panel, just so it looks better. But honestly, I'd be okay with that look. It's just like I said, it's so flimsy. And I could make this work, but especially where the cutting got a little messy, I'm thinking I probably will end up just getting something else. Now over here, in the original setup, I believe this is the oil pressure and the voltmeter, or vice versa, but those are the two gauges that sit here normally. I am going to set up the oil pressure and the water temperature over here, just because these are things that we need to get done in order to test fire the car, just so that we can make sure we're, not running too hot, and obviously that we have oil pressure and things like that. And that way I don't have to wait for the panel to be complete, because I can't really finish this and get all these things wired up and everything permanently until I get my speedometer, which is in the mail. Basically I want to get those set up, and I don't want to have to wait around. So I'm going to set those there so that they don't take too long, that I don't have to take too long to potentially test fire this thing up. If you couldn't tell, this is just a triple gauge set, just a universal small block triple gauge set off eBay. The tack is obviously the one thing that's out of place here, and the dummy light's just universal from Advanced Auto. But so all those come with like the same little light thing, which I have made a little wiring harness and just wrapped in tape to get that done. And I got my positive and negative leads out there. I just connected these in parallel. If you get the ones that I got, which, I mean, take a good look at them. They're just kind of cheap universal ones, but they are metal and glass, and they're pretty solid. I like them, and they'll definitely get the job done. They had pretty good reviews for the price that they had. And these are just, they're hardwired lights, unfortunately. I don't know if my camera will pick that up. Not really, but that's okay. They're hardwired bulbs, so if anything was to happen, I will have to mess around with this a little bit. But I basically just wired them all together in parallel, soldered the connections and taped it all up, so that once this is ready to go, I can just kind of stick this up in behind. Until I get a stereo, I can reach right up in here and get behind these to get those bulbs in there. So it won't matter if the oil pressure and the water temperature and all that is already hooked up to the engine. I do have the plastic line run, there it is right there, to the engine already. So that will be as easy as just basically connecting that and making sure that's seated in solid, because I'm not sure, you guys tell me in the comments too, if you think this will work. I'm kind of thinking these will work just sitting in here. They press in really tight, and they really don't, if I can actually get this thing out here, they really don't move too much. Like, I kind of jump up and down in the car a little bit and kind of rock it back and forth, and they don't move. And they're like perfect diameter that they just kind of slide back into these little sheaths in here. And it's a little bit loose, but I can fix that. So I don't know, that might, I mean, it might be too flimsy once the car, you know, is started and starts vibrating and things like that, especially with those, you know, nice solid welded mounts that we have. It might knock some stuff loose and we might have to go back to the drawing board, but I almost think that they might be able to just sit in there. But again, what with these being two that really need to not get knocked loose, we might have to pull the dash and see what we can do behind there for some sort of mounting situation. But we'll see. Yeah, that's pretty much all this episode is. Just kind of showing you guys where we're at, what we're doing so far. Maybe hopefully get the attention back on the project a little bit and get some input as far as what we're working on right now. Once my speedometer shows up, I'm going to I'm not sure if I'm going to finish mocking it into that panel, where I'm not sure if I want to keep it. I might just start fresh now that I have a pretty good idea of what I need to do. So once I get that, I can get all that hooked up. I'm gonna try to set those 3 gauges in the dash up in such a way that I can plug and unplug them, so that I can pull that out if I need to and not have to worry about things, not have to go clipping any wires in the near future or anything like that if something's screwed up and I need to change something. So that'll take a little bit, and I still have all the hardware like the alternator and the fan on the radiator and the starter and the distributor to wire up. But I did get my battery all charged up, which according to the Snap-on tester is still a very good battery for summer use, which is all I'm going to use this thing for, where we have so much salt and stuff up here in Maine. So it should be good. I shouldn't have to replace the battery, at least for now. We'll see once we start cranking this thing, especially where it was just the V6 before, and now it's gonna have to crank that old V8 to get it started. But I shouldn't have to replace the battery right off the hook here. And I did also just kind of run like my lights and my windows and stuff, and everything's still working. So I think all I have to wire up is just all the hardware for the engine to make it run and to monitor it, and then maybe a stereo and some speakers when I'm done. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this is being informative, or at least just cringy enough that if somebody else is trying to do this, that it's at least, you know, showing you what not to do. If you like the content, go ahead and hit that like button. If you don't, dislike it, whatever. If you want to see more, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check that notification bell just so that you get updates. But I mean, I'm not in this for the YouTube. I'm just trying to be helpful. So hopefully I am being that. I know it took a while to get back to this thing, but here we are.